our dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of our daily debate. Our debate for tonight would be about the African Space Agency, which was officially inaugurated at its permanent headquarters in Egypt's space city. That would be the topic of our debate for tonight, and the importance of this inauguration for the permanent headquarters for the African Space Agency in Egypt. But first, we'll start with our top stories for today, which is President Abdel Fattah Sisi, who held talks with his Angolan counterpart João Lourenço in Cairo on Tuesday. Speaking at a joint press conference following their talks, President Sisi said their talks witnessed an agreement in visions and reflected the joint political will to alleviate the bilateral ties in various fields. He said the talks tackled means of boosting bilateral ties and expanding joint cooperation within the African Union as well as the African space and security. President Sisi said that they had also discussed mechanisms to boost the work of the African Union and expanding continental integration. According to the head of the state, intensifying efforts to keep the stability and security of the African Union were on the agenda of the talks. President Sisi expressed Egypt's readiness to offer all support for Angola, especially in the field of security, defense, health, media, tourism, agriculture, fighting corruption, renewable energy, diplomacy, and developing the state institutions. He said the vision by the Angolan president for the chairmanship of the African Union during this year also topped the agenda of the talks, especially towards development in the Horn of Africa, Sudan, fighting terrorism, and events in the DRC. For his part, Lourenço, who is the current chair of the African Union, said his country was keen to cooperate with Egypt in different fields and called on the Egyptian companies to work in infrastructural projects in Angola. In this regard, he said his country cooperates with Egypt in the fields of pharmaceuticals and communications, in addition to combating terrorism. On the escalating situation in Gaza, he called on the international community to shoulder its responsibility to end the crisis, stressing that establishing an independent state with Jerusalem as its capital is the best way to solve the Palestinian cause. Meanwhile, the two sides signed a number of deals and MOUs in the fields of communications, information technology, housing, and infrastructure. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Expatriates Badr Abdelati on Tuesday stressed Cairo's support for the unity and stability of Somalia and its national institutions. During a call with his Somali counterpart, Abdessalem Abdelali, the top diplomat reiterated Egypt's support to all efforts to achieve security and stability in Somalia. Abdelali stressed the deep ties between Egypt and Somalia, which have been alleviated to the level of strategic partnership during the visit of the Somali president. For his part, the Somali foreign minister expressed appreciation to the efforts by Cairo in support of his country on various levels. He also valued Egypt's participation in the AU delegation sent to support stability in Somalia. Welcome back, and starting the topic for our debate for tonight, where the African Space Agency was officially inaugurated at its permanent headquarters in Egypt's space city. More details in the following story.
The African Space Agency was officially launched at its permanent headquarters at Egypt's space city in Cairo. The landmark event marked the culmination of nearly a decade of strategic groundwork that began in January 2016, when the African Union Assembly adopted the African Space Policy and Strategy during its 26th ordinary session, establishing the framework for a coordinated continental approach to space activities. The African Space Agency inauguration was a milestone in Africa's space exploration journey and aligning with the Sustainable Development Goals, and commended the collective efforts of partners, nations and institutions in realizing the agency. Inauguration ceremony was attended by a prestigious group of guests, including African Union Commission officials, representatives from African governments and space agencies, ambassadors from Africa and foreign nations based in Egypt, and members of the Council as well as high-level delegates from the global space community. The participants highlighted the significance of the occasion, coinciding with the 50th anniversary and inauguration of the African Space Agency, emphasizing that through equitable and fair collaboration, Egypt hopes to celebrate another milestone in 50 years. The attendees expressed their commitment to strengthening ties with Africa, particularly through partnerships, and reaffirmed NASA and the U.S. dedication to collaborating with Africa, citing the Artemis Accord signed by Angola, Nigeria and Rwanda, alongside numerous bilateral agreements to enhance commercial and governmental space utilization for sustainable development. Speakers further pledged that NASA would remain a reliable partner, ensuring collaborations yielded tangible results that would swiftly elevate Africa as a space power. They highlighted regional cooperation through initiatives like the Emirates Mars Mission and the Arab Space Cooperation Group, pledging to expand ongoing collaboration with African nations into robust continent-wide programs that accelerate space development, spanning satellite development and training programs, and expressing eagerness to collaborate, outlining 3 key pillars. These were legal, technical and scientific cooperation. Also, attendees outlined key areas of collaboration, including capacity building, support for an African space mission legal framework, Earth observation for environmental monitoring, and facilitating African participation in exploration. They thanked Egypt for its leadership and pledged the relentless work to establish space as critical infrastructure for governance across Africa, and reflect Egypt's unwavering commitment to advancing Pan-African scientific progress, vowing continued support for continental development initiatives.
تحية تقدير واحترام لبطل حقيقي. البطل ده هو مصر وشعبها. الحكاية مش حكاية لا حكومة ولا قيادة، ده حكاية كل مواطن في مصر. أكرمت مصر وشرفت مصر وعزيت مصر، انتم قتلتم. فالشرف كل الشرف والكرامة كل الكرامة والفضل كل الفضل لله سبحانه وتعالى، ثم ليكم انتم. شرفتوني واكرمتموني وعزتوني ورفعتوا راسي قدام الدنيا كلها باللي انتوا عملتوه. والله 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 لن يستطيع اي رئيس يقف مكاني هنا انه يقدر يعمل حاجه بدونكم. لن يستطيع. قصه وطن يتحدث عن نفسه، شعب أراد الحياة فاستجاب له القدر.
Welcome back, our dear viewers, to start our debate about the importance of the African Space Agency, which was inaugurated officially last week in Cairo. We are very much delighted to be joined here in the studio by our dear guest, Dr. Khaled Youssef, Vice Dean of the Faculty of Navigation and Space Technology, Bani Suef University, and advisor for the Ministry of Military Production. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
It's our pleasure indeed. Sir, actually, the African Space Agency headquarters was officially inaugurated in Cairo, marking actually a historic milestone for Africa space program. How can the agency actually promote the Egyptian-African collaboration, the innovation and the strategic partnership in the field of space technology?
Yeah. Actually, the story of hosting the African agency in Egypt started like 5 years ago with the decision of having the Space Agency of Egypt in Egypt. The decision was there from the Egyptian leadership is to have also the host of the African Space Agency. It's a very strategic step because Egypt for Africa is a strategic hub, not only for the strategic geography of Egypt, but also for the location of Egypt in terms of the space segment and how can we make use of the space experts and the space infrastructure and how to help in building the space infrastructure in Africa. This is very important and very critical and strategic objective, not only for Egypt but for the whole Africa. So as we are eager to have this host in Egypt, they are also eager to be hosted here in Egypt. And this was clear in the conference that was done, that we have a lot of space agencies, several space agencies in Africa is represented in this conference. And the discussions and the protocols and the agreements done prove this interest, the common and joint interest of the space Egyptian part and of the African part as well. And also the Arabic part.
Sir, actually, how far the inauguration of the agency has underscored Africa's commitment to advancing its space capabilities and the establishment of a strong foundation for discussions, for partnerships, and best practices sharing that takes place throughout the conference.
That's actually a very good question, because very important to understand why do we need to have a space hub, and why do we need to have even a space agency in Egypt. This is very important, because when we talk about the space agency, we talk about space programs, and we talk about innovations not in the extra space, not in the deep space. We are talking about Earth, Earth observations, and we talk about a very important target, which is who doesn't own his sky, he doesn't own his land. So very important to understand the resources, how to exploit the use of the capabilities, how to control, how to govern what's taking place on the ground, how to protect the country, how to ensure that we have a good urban planning, for example. So a lot of impacts from the space to the Earth, and the first file that is, and the first chapter in our life that is impacted is the economy. So there is a big and strong link between the economy and the space. So when we talk about Africa, we talk about how to extend the space infrastructure across our continent. So we have countries that are also interested in the space, like Nigeria, for example, and they have nanosatellites orbiting the Earth, and they are launched by Nigeria and by some other countries, like Kenya and some other countries. So how could we make this collaboration? How could we make joint space programs? How could we make use more from our resources? How could retain the leadership of Egypt in Africa using this fight? So a lot of topics that is important on the political and the economic and scientific aspects is already tackled from this step.
Indeed. Sir, actually with the launch, do you expect the agency to be a primary point for contact for the African engagement with the global stakeholders, and to reinforce the conference's orchestrating themes of collaboration, diplomacy, and the knowledge exchange between the different countries in these domains?
Of course, the knowledge exchange is there. Of course, how to achieve the win-win situation is there. But not only to be the primary contact, it's to be the main contact, because now the world is facing a clustering of domains in the countries. For example, we might not hear about the French Space Agency in France, but we hear about the European Space Agency, ESA. So that means that there is a clustering of countries working together under the umbrella of one agency. So when we talk about the space means that there is a collaboration and there is a clustering, more than a collaboration, which is the fusion of these space agencies in joint space programs. Like Europe do in the ESA, or the European Space Agency, we are doing now in the African Space Agency, which is being launched the same way, more or less. So we need to develop common programs. We need to develop, to make use of the capabilities of the countries. We have, by the way, good achievements and innovations in the South Africa side, which is it's a developed country. And we have also good achievements in other countries in the African side that might appear to the normal to the people that it is not developed yet, but it's developed in the space. We have good scientists from the African side working in NASA and working in ESA and working in JESCA. So how to make this collaboration. This is very important for the target that we talk about. Egypt is not taking the space as an exploration of the deep space. We are not observing Mars, and we are, even we have some missions, but we are using the space to serve the Earth, to serve our economy, to serve our achievements and our progress and our developments.
Yes, indeed.
So,
Sir, actually with the African space launch, the agency, did it set the tone for the transformation, gathering the reinforcement of Africa's role in the global space industry, and did it lay the groundwork for the strengthening of these domains for Africa?
yeah, when we talk, let's focus on the word, on the domain itself, because what are the domains of the space? Domains in the space lies in the remote sensing, lies in the geographic information system, lies in the application of the image processing, satellite image processing, lies in the launchers of new satellites, lies in the technology development on board of nano satellites and micro satellites.
Yeah.
So these are all domains adopted by Egyptian Space Agency, and now is transformed and transferred to be a part of a joint program. You have companies working as developers.
Yeah.
We have companies working as a vendor for some parts of the satellites, like the cameras. We have carriers. We have operators. We have space agencies. So the world, not only Egypt and Africa, is facing what we call the democratization of the space. So which means that we have a democracy in the space, no more restricted to the governments and agencies. So it's no more having a space. Before we hear about NASA, we hear about ESA, we hear about Japan, we had Space Agency, China Space Agency. Yes. Now we have companies working in the space like SpaceX and many other companies working, satellite, IoT, and a lot of companies.
So beforehand it was actually a specialization for states.
Yeah, and that's a transformation in itself. So the world is facing a transformation. The African region is facing a transformation as a consequence of the transformation that is happening in the world. You have now startups and companies working in the area of the space. You can imagine that the space, even overall economy in the budget, the figures in the market of the space now is exceeding $15 billion as a business.
Yes.
Not only a company, not only a country funds, not only NASA before was funding the projects because it doesn't have a clear return on investment.
Yes.
Now we are facing a transformation. We are having now a return on investment. So this means there is a motive for the companies, for the businessmen, to invest in the space. That's why we have companies in the region that is now working in the space. Even in Egypt here, by the way, we have companies working in the space. We have an authority for the remote sensing. We have a space agency. And the African countries have the same. So it's time to fuse, time to make the fusion, time to make the combination, the collaboration of such efforts, which is scattered here and there, to be clustered under one umbrella.
Indeed, yes.
And we do the same, by the way, with the Arabic side. We have also the same link with the Emirates Space Agency, with the Saudi Arabia Space. So we are doing the same as we do in Africa. Egypt is a hub not only for Africa, it's for the Middle East. So a lot of exercise is being done, and the collaboration with big space agencies on the American side, on the Russian side, on the China side, on the European side is being done.
Indeed. Sir, actually, through the Africa Space Agency, do you think Egypt will be actually able to promote the continental collaboration, the innovation, and the strategic partnership in the field of space development?
We started, you can imagine, we started 7 years ago.
Only 7 years ago?
7 years ago. There was the strategic decision from the Egyptian presidency to make the space agency in 2017. We have a faculty school specialized only in the space technology and the space science established to support this vision, which is Egyptian Vision for 2030, in the same domains in 2017. So we started by preparing the candidates, preparing the protocols, the policies through the agency, because the main target, the main mission of the agency is the policy. And the space programs And also, in addition, we make the part of the innovation by collaboration with well-known universities specialized in this area in the world, like Syria University, for example. We have a good relationship with them in the research, like like Nihon University in Japan, like Moscow in Russia. NASA itself, we have some collaboration with it in terms of research and innovations. So the innovations is there because now when we talk about the launch of the African Space Agency, we should have a journey of preparation before this step. And this journey started like 7 years ago, which is in terms of the pioneering in versus the Arabic countries and versus the African countries, we are ahead by like 2-3 years. And then comes after us the Emirates side, and then comes after us some of the African sides.
Yes, indeed.
So that was a vision like 7 to 8 years ago.
To what extent, from your point of view, Doctor, we did realize our vision till this moment, and to which percent, if you can evaluate, we did reach what we want, and what's more that we are expecting to be doing in that domain in order to fulfill our vision?
Yeah. For the time being, the current situation is we have achieved a very good steps and very good milestones.
Which started actually 7 years ago.
Yeah, and we achieved like 2 milestones in this journey. The first milestone to have a clear space programs, a clear collaborations and agreements that enable us doing some, let's say, strategic activities in the space. For example, we have with the China space agencies and with the China innovation labs some programs that enable us exploring the moon, for example. So the first question that might arise out of this is, why are we exploring the moon? Because we are exploring the moon because the moon is very important to us as a calendar. So we can explore the moon because we need to make some sort of accurate identification of the crests.
The lunar calendar.
Yeah, the lunar calendars, yes. To also the impact of this on the agriculture, the impact of this on the ocean levels, the sea levels, the deforestations. So there is a relationship. So there are programs. Part of it is toward the space, part of it is towards the Earth. So this is a milestone that we achieve. We have a clear space now because there are two transformational steps that the agency see during its journey. This is the first one, and the second one is now to making some sort of encountering and making the announcing the strategic hub for the African Space Agency. So this is the collaboration internationally with the other efforts that is being done in Africa. And there is a roadmap for a clear space program, the space missions that is needed. And we hear today about the first astronaut, from Egyptian astronaut, that is a part of a mission to the space, to the outer space, to the International Space Station. And that is also for us. We hear about it about like 6 to 5 months from now. We will hear about we are receiving an astronaut coming from the space, which is Egyptian, and she is, by the way, a girl. So she's a lady.
That's really a breakthrough. A very important achievement that we should be actually proud of, because I would take it from what you have just mentioned, Doctor, and allow me to simplify things, because maybe many viewers would ask why we are entering in the field of aviation and space and all these very complicated fields which we don't have anything to do or won't have any positive impact on us as individuals. You have just mentioned how important is it for us, direct effect on the citizen in agriculture, in daily life, in the effects of climate change.
Urban planning.
So it does have an impact on each and every citizen. So can you elaborate on that field? Because maybe actually many citizens or many viewers would not be aware of the importance of that domain on the individual and its impact on
Yeah,
them.
yeah. And if we, for example, shedding the light on the part of the agriculture and the corresponding important file for the food insecurity, for example, for the whole world, very important to know two important things.
Yeah.
The first thing is the water loggings and the water sources and the underground water levels that we have, because this is a resource for us.
Yeah.
And the possibility of impact of any shortage of water on the agriculture. And the most convenient method to identify this is from the space. Because that's what we call the remote sensing techniques. That is not only based on just capturing an image from the space. No, we have radar from the space. We have technology that can penetrate some of the ground layers. We have a lot of technologies that can help us find out where are the water loggings, what is the impact, how is today, for example, if we have a seasonal crop shortage, what type of crops that has a shortage and might impact our food insecurity. So we need to import, we need to export, so the government need to have some sort of governance, some sort of holistic view. What is happening? So water and agriculture, it's very critical and a strategic file for us.
And they are directly affected by our studies. Yes.
Yeah. Also, if you allow me to shed the light on the urban planning and the part of, for example, the agriculture land decrease due to the buildings, the unofficial buildings and illegal activities that is done.
Of course.
We are controlling this from the space. We can announce and alert on real time what is happening, what are the illegal activities, who is doing it, without the need for human intervention.
Of course.
Space is very important.
And we have to be part of all the development in that domain, which is actually very essential to our development in general, not only in the field of
it's economy and security.
Of course.
The two important topics.
The issue of security as well that we'll be tackling is indeed very important as well, and it's related to our work in the space as well. So the New Space Africa Conference concluded its activities at the Egyptian Space City in Cairo under the theme Empowering Africa's Economy Through the Space-Driven Innovation. So what were the main outcomes of the four-day conference that took place in Egypt?
The first and the most important outcome is the agreement and the protocols that is being signed off. Because from my point of view, it's not a traditional and the classical protocols. It's a protocol for execution, and that is different. The second important point is that the exposure, because our teams and our resources and our scientists is exposed to what is happening, and the same happen from the other side. The third point, it is the message to the external world. Egypt is a strategic hub for Africa, and this is very important. And the fourth point, which from my perspective I see also very important, it's the bridge between the African side and the Arabic side. So very important for Egypt to retain its position in Africa.
Of course.
And very important for Egypt to have this respect from the African countries back again on the scene. And they see Egypt very important for them. So we are retaining our strategic position in Africa in a very critical file, which is the space. Advanced file, innovative file, you have the capabilities, we are giving because we met the African agencies in the conferences every year. I made some joint programs with them in Japan before on some strategic projects. I know well how they are respecting the Egyptian vision and the space, and how are we going for. And also the roadmap that we are developing. So they believe in us. Very important to retain the position. And I see it, it's the fourth point, but the most important point.
Indeed. Sir, we'll be back to the importance of that conference, but we'll be taking this report. Africa's space industry takes center stage as Cairo hosts the New Space Africa Conference and exhibition.
For the fourth consecutive year, the New Space Africa Conference 2025 strengthened its position as the first gathering for African and international space stakeholders. Organized by Space in Africa in collaboration with the African Space Agency, this year's edition was hosted by the Egyptian Space Agency at Egypt Space City in Cairo. running from the 21st till the 24th of April with the aim of enhancing space innovation and economic development in the continent. The fourth edition of the high-level gathering brought together industry leaders, commercial space companies, investors and other key stakeholders in the African space and satellite industry. Building on the success of previous three editions held in Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire and Angola, this year's conference was the most impactful yet, bringing together over 500 delegates from more than 64 countries, 100 distinguished speakers and 39 exhibitors showcasing cutting-edge technologies and solutions. Amongst distinguished attendees was the Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, Egyptian Space Board of Directors, the Angolan Minister of Telecommunications and Information Technologies, head of the EU delegation to the African Union, EU Ambassador to Egypt and the Arab League, and the Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment for the African Union Minister of State for Information, Communication, Technology. In addition, the Executive Director of the International Astronautical Federation, Director General of the Islamic World Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, and the Deputy Director of the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, as the President of the Council of the African Space Agency, the International Space University, and the CEO of Egyptian Space Agency. Additionally, the conference welcomed heads of space agencies from over 25 countries to provide exclusive updates on their respective space programs, highlighting achievements, challenges and future strategies that will shape the continent's growing space sector. 36 leading companies across various industry segments were also on site, showcasing the latest innovations, demonstrating capabilities, sharing best practices with attendees, and reinforcing their commitment to advancing space-driven solutions for Africa and beyond.
And back to our topic for discussion about the African Space Agency. Sir, to what extent Egypt's hosting the conference has actually emphasized the growing recognition of Africa's potential as a strategic player in the global space economy, and it is highlighting the key role of partnerships in driving sustainable growth, technological innovation and investment in this very important and vital sector.
Back to the point of the investment, because we just shed a light very fast on it, which is what is the volume of the business investment of the space in the world. And now we are talking about what is the segment, the market share of the Egyptian and the African part in this cake. Actually, till the moment, the percentage is not that remarkable.
Of course.
But we should work on it through this step. Innovations hubs and innovation centers. And empowering the startup companies that we have, because you know the space agency in Egypt is making some sort of an incubation for some of the startups to grow it up to be a standalone company, and doing the same with the African side. So we have startups, because the mindset pool is not restricted to a country. It's a think tank. So think tank, you need all what you need is to polarize the think tank. So we have now, instead of one think tank, we have several think tanks. So we need to polarize the think tank in a way that we could make use of these innovations, these ideas, and also the startups that we have today, and also the existing company that we need to support them from the investment perspective and through the investment environment. And Egypt play several steps in the investment environment to make it more enabled and to make it more sustainable. And we have to consider that we are still playing in a blue ocean, not a red ocean. So still we have room to compete. Room to compete in terms of cost of the service, room to compete in terms of the location geographically, and room to compete because of our mindsets and scientific think tank. So these are all enablers for the part of investment and support of the African side and the Egyptian side as well, to make an investment path and to be a part of this global economy in the space.
Yes. What incentive should be given here to the investors in order to invest in these domains in Egypt?
Two things. The first thing is an ROI. They should understand the return, so we can fund through a specific organization that giving the funds, and already we have some collaboration on this. And I'm not talking about loans, I'm talking about funding.
Yes.
So the funding is very important because it gives the first push and the first motive. Please start, have a clear feasibility study, and we are funding you. Not the government is funding. It is organizations that see the ROI and understand this. So they may be a part. There are different business models that work on this. The incentives, that's normally the spirits of the investment itself. The locations, because, for example, Egypt has now areas and several spaces that is dedicated to the innovations, like the knowledge city in administration capital, like the space agency location, and several locations that give several incentives in terms of authorization and in terms of, and also now, even the law itself is considering such type of companies, which was not before. The steps that was done on the legal side, on the community side, on the business side, the laws and the articles that describe and identify such type of businesses becoming now in the law. It's a part, by the way, of the law of the foundation of the space agency. So all of these are preparing an environment, and then let the player go. And I'm sure that in the case that we mentioned, the blue ocean, there is a big room. But you have to be not risky taker. You have to be bold enough to go into the situation and face and do the business. There is.
Yeah. When there is a will, there is a way, of course.
Yeah.
And we do have all the potential to be a key player. Sir, actually, as you have mentioned, that one of the most important outcomes of the conference was the memos of understanding that were signed. So the 4-day conference resulted in the signing of many memos of understandings, agreements and protocols in the field of space technology. Could you actually shed light on the most important MOUs and protocols that were signed during the conference?
I think there are like 3 to 4 important MOUs that is signed, like Salvini, like Maxor, like Arayan Group, like Satrev. These international companies and organizations, and for example, Salvini is specialized in the part of the remote sensing and satellite image processing and interpretation. Means that if we remember the example of the agriculture, when you say, okay, we understand, how could we understand? Because we have images from the space, and this image need to be analyzed. And to analyze these images, I need a tool.
Yeah, of course.
And the tool is like software and the processing and the hardware and all of that stuff. Who is the provider of this tool? These companies, this family of companies. So this means that we need some sort of collaboration with the satellite that is giving us the image, and also we have our own satellites in the space, and also the company that is giving us the tool to analyze. So we can interpret the satellite image to a meaningful information that we could build a decision on top of it. We can have an image, just an image from the space, and then the result of this image, not that it is beautiful image, but because it is representing that the crop is not healthy.
Yes.
So the information from the image is just to say the crop is not healthy. Can you imagine this? So this means I need a tool, and this company is providing a tool. I need, for example, a company specialized in the building of the cameras, advanced cameras, like Dragonfly, one of the cooperation MOUs that is already signed with them. So if we need to think of in our roadmaps of launching satellites, and we need a camera on top of the satellites, because when we mention the camera in the space, it is not like our cameras. The camera in the space is different. Our cameras is just interested of the colors. So we are interested of 3 colors, and then we capture, and then we see our photos. So this is the interest of us on the Earth. But the interest of the space is different, because we are analyzing not only the visible part, we are analyzing the invisible part. So we have the infrared part, we have the ultraviolet part, we have the millimeter waves part, we have the microwave meter. Yeah. So we have a lot of bands that we are analyzing. So we are not talking about, our cameras is called RGB camera, but this type of cameras are called multispectral or hyperspectral camera. I don't want to go into technical details, but there is a difference. There is a difference.
Crucial, actually, difference.
Yeah, so if we go to sign with Dragonfly, it is not like signing with Kodak or with Samsung or with Nokia. Or with,
totally different.
Nikon. Yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah.
So we managed to have such type of MOUs, which means that it is an enabler on the way. If I have a space program, I need an enabler.
Of course.
And similar cases we have for Iranian group for the part of, if you have like thrust me is for thrust electrical thrusters, which is the engine that is responsible for giving the thrust, the push in the space. Because we don't have air in the space, so we don't have oxygen. So how could our engines work?
Yeah.
Like the aeroplane, and one of the common tricky questions that we can give to the students in the school, that in the faculty, that okay, why the aeroplane cannot go to the space? Because the aeroplane in the atmosphere has oxygen.
Yes.
And to burn, we need oxygen. To burn the fuel, we need oxygen to make the burn, to make the combustion. And when we reach the space, there is no oxygen.
Yes, indeed.
So how could the engine work? It will not work. For the normal engine of the aeroplane,
it won't work in the space.
But the space has its own fuel tanks. So we have nuclear fuel tank, we have hydrogen fuel tank, we have fuel tanks. And it is doing the propulsion or the combustion and then doing the thrust.
Different technology.
Different technology. The space, aviation is different technology, complicated technology. Space is more
advanced and more complicated.
More complicated technology.
Actually, sir, one of the protocols signed with it was with the Japanese company, Salvoni, which promotes the technical means of analyzing the geographic information and the data systems, as well as the remote sensing through the specialized projects and programs. Could you shed more light on the importance of that protocol as well?
GIS, or Geographic Information System, it's one of the applications and domains from the space. Google Maps is one of these examples. We all
use Google Maps.
Yes, and Google Maps help us a lot on the Earth.
Yes.
And
now we can't move
without Google Maps. Yes, because you might be lost if you are not following the Google Map. So Google Map is a space application. So we have a space application since a while on our mobile phones.
But many people they don't connect.
Yeah. That's the problem. And when we have the Google Maps, that's for one application, which is the transportation application, which means that if we need to be more smart in transportation to reach our destination, more efficient, and now more green, which is one of the features that is already added, means less carbon, less carbon. Then we use Google Maps. We have the same for every other application. So for the urban planning, we have GIS. For the part of the agriculture, we have GIS. Part of the water management, we have the part of the deforestation. You remember the coastal impacts that has happened in Egypt in the north coast like 4 years or 3 years ago.
Yes.
And this coastal impact, because of the sea motions and the sea changes, we monitor this from the space through GIS. GIS was a part of the monitor, but not the whole technology. But we use GIS in everything. So GIS, again, if we need to correlate and to relate the space agency, the space image with the geography, means longitudes and latitudes, means coordinates, then we need GIS.
So you detect actually all the geographical changes taking place on Earth from space.
Yeah, we detect from the space. We detect maybe the composition of the rocks, the minerals from space. We have what we call the spectral signature. So we can say, okay, this rocks is containing iron, it's containing gold, it's containing whatsoever. So we detect this from the space, but to a limit.
Of course.
Because in some case we use in situ measurements, which is measurement on the Earth, supporting measurement from the space. But at the end, we have a package of capabilities. And you need to engineer this package in a way that you get the most benefit out of it. That's why when we talk about agencies that is making this important and strategic connection, it is an enabler for the innovator, enabler for the company, because now the package is enriched. Enriches through these MOUs, enriches through this presence, enriches through this exposure. So this enrichment in the package makes the possibility to innovate is more and more.
Of course.
And that's a target. So back to the GIS file, GIS and remote sensing is a close and complementary file in the remote sensing file. We need to have the satellite image. We need to locate the satellite image on the coordinates to be geography. We need to identify this is the pyramids, for example. So this is a control point, and then okay, this is the distance out of the pyramid, and there are some, for example, illegal activities is being done, like buildings, like maybe tunneling, whatsoever. So all of this cavitation detection, all of these artificial cavitation detections, all of these natural cavitations, impacts of earthquakes, a lot of things, if we relate the geography with the space image, and this is through GIS. That's the story behind, and that's the potential that we are expecting as a result of signing such type of MOUs.
Of course, very important domains and fields that are impacted from these agreements through space as well. Sir, the importance of the Africa Space Agency for the field of security. To what extent we benefit from the space in the field of security?
Security has a lot of aspects. Space plays a role in the security. It's very clear, because national security means space. And at the beginning of the discussion, I mentioned that who doesn't own his sky, he doesn't own his land.
Of course.
So the ownership of the land should be protected. And the space is the space. It's a holistic view. So either on what is happening through the borders, either what is happening on ground, either because when we talk about national security, it's not only the external threats, there are internal threats.
Of course.
Yeah, and if we do some sort of illegal activities on the agricultural land, it's a part of the national security.
Of course.
So how could you protect it? So all of the threats, security means the counteract of the threat. We have risks, we have threats, and it's a country that is for the world strategic. We have Suez Canal, we have land, we have a lot of appealing points that everybody is looking at. So security is very important, and national security is very important, and the space can play a big role in this area.
How the states do protect their soil through space, and how we can actually protect our space itself, because it's very sensitive indeed.
Very important question. To protect the space, it's another
level, because maybe the soil, the land is much easier than the space, and because with the development of the new technologies, it's very very alarming and very
alarming.
Sensitive.
Also the selection of the orbit, the selection of the mission, how to protect the mission. Because it's not only the protection of the body of the craft, or the body of the satellite, it's even the protection of the satellite against attacks.
Of course.
So we have attacks, and these attacks can steal the satellite itself. So it's still orbiting in the space, but not belonging to us. So a lot of attacks is happening in the world. There are a lot of laws that protect this, but when it comes to it's not a matter of law in that case. And one of the things that Egypt usually consider in this, that for example the encryption part and the decryption part of our cases is we are doing it using our calibers, for example. So a lot of things is done in this file. A lot of steps is done, and a lot of protection measures is taken to protect this. And also, because the question also have to, and as an answer to this question, I have to highlight also that there is some threats that is not from other peoples. It's from some impacts, we call it debris, space debris, which is, space debris means that there are satellites that is out of the service, and there is a possibility to make some sort of collision. You remember the China case, when they are launching their space station, and there is a drop-off of the rocket, and they was that time afraid that where is the location on Earth that will be dropped on. So there are, the fight is big.
It will always remain a very tricky, actually, field. Indeed, it was a very interesting episode. Dr. Khaled Youssef, Vice Dean of the Faculty of Navigation and Space Technology, Bani Suef University, and advisor for the Ministry of Military Production. It was a real pleasure. Thank you so much for being our guest for tonight. Thank you so much, sir. And with that, our dear viewers, we come to the end of this edition of the Daily Debate. I'm Rabia. Many thanks for watching.